Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive LaCroix. We're going to be discussing his incredible book, Thanks to My Father's Dream. It's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, man, it's a lot of other places. Do yourself a favor, though, and head on over to this man's Facebook page, okay? Search for it by typing in his name, LaCroix, and then add in the book title, Thanks to My Father's Dream. Again, that's LaCroix, Thanks to My Father's Dream. Through Facebook, you're going to gather more information on him, stay up to date with things that he has going on, as well as be able to purchase the book through that page. One last time, that's LaCroix, Thanks to My Father's Dream, through Facebook. And I quickly want to take this opportunity and point out the fact that Gene was brought to us by Citi of Books. So for writers out there who have gone through their process and now you find yourself in a precarious position because now you've spent so much time investing in creating this book, but you need some assistance moving it. Well, head on over to citiofbooks.com and gather all of the ways that their fantastic team is more than equipped to help you move all of your creative endeavors. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Gene here on the line. People, have you ever built your life on a dream that wasn't originally your own? Well, listen, this is something that I find fascinating. Not just the storyline itself, and let me tell you, it's pretty incredible, but because of my background, like it resonates with me. People, you already know, and I've mentioned this on a number of occasions. I say it in my opening every single time. People of Distinction, my name is Benji Cole. I'm the son of Al Cole from CBS Radio. People of Distinction was initially begun by my father. I have since taken over all day-to-day operations, but it's something that, massive shoes to fill, but also I'm building my dream through my father's and finding that silver lining, finding my own path, a way to make my own name within that. And that's an interesting duality. Enter LaCroix, because see, his story isn't your typical rise to fame. It begins behind the Iron Curtain with his father's impossible hope and lands him in the spotlight of the National Horse Show, rubbing shoulders with legends. But this memoir, man, it asks an even harder question, right? It asks, what happens when the applause stops and you're left with just the dream and yourself? Today, man, we're gonna dive deep and we're gonna get into it because we're talking about the parts of legacy that we don't normally see. The pressure, the silence, and the stunning vulnerability of coming back to your own life. Sit back, strap in. This is going to be a wonderful discussion. Gene, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you for being a guest with us. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, and thank you, Benji, for this great opportunity.
Listen, it's a pleasure for everyone involved, myself, my listening audience included. Gene, I love what you've done here, man. It's something that, again, I think is deeply personal to you, but wonderfully insightful and educational for our viewers and for your readers. So we're looking forward to the discussion. Start first and foremost, Gene, tell us more about your background, man.
All right. I guess my journey started with my great-grandparents immigrating from Europe, trying to escape the dictatorship and to come to the land of the free. On my father's side, they settled in the land that was called the Louisiana Purchase, and they were farmers. And, they made a living, worked hard, and were grateful for the opportunity to pursue their own dreams. When my father was 6 years of age, his father died, which is my grandfather. His dying words to my father were, I want you to work as hard as you can. Give your absolute best at everything you do. Most importantly, go to college. Take care of your family. Make the most of yourself. Follow your dreams. Promise me, son. My dad lived up to that commitment. Shortly after that, his family went through the Depression. They lost the farm. His mother went to the little town of Hiawatha as a hairdresser. And he had to work his way through school, and then he went to medical school through scholarships. And then he took care of his family by moving him. By that time, he was in practice, and he moved his family to the state of Washington and set them up in a little cattle ranch in Ellensburg, Washington. He then pursued a dream that started when he was riding to school on the old farm draft horse. And he saw many of the school kids were riding more hot-blooded horses with Arabian horse blood. And he admired them. He liked their beauty. He liked their speed. And going through school and having the advantage of the public libraries, he studied the Arabian horse. And one day he saw paintings from the 1800s of these Bedouin Arabians, and nobody had seen these kind of horses in the flesh. But he thought, that's the kind of Arabian that someday I want to own and breed. And he studied up on it, and when he could afford it, he started purchasing a few Arabians and started his little breeding program. Through a few generations of breeding Arabian horses, he was a little frustrated. He wasn't coming close to that ideal that he was looking for. On a hunch, and by that time I was 14 years of age, he said, let's go behind the Iron Curtain. Let's go into Poland and look at the Polish Arabian horses. So that was a pretty scary experience, going behind the Iron Curtain when you're 14 years old, and everything was government, and the citizens did not drive cars. They rode in horse and wagon, and they had their little plots of land, and you could see them working in the fields. But anyway, we discovered a stallion that matched the ideal Arabian, and that stallion's name was Bosque. We imported him, and he set new standards for the Arabian breed, changed our lives, my family's lives, the whole Arabian horse community's lives forever. And that horse started me on my own journey. Through that journey, I became very dedicated to being an Arabian horse trainer. I wanted to be the best ever. I had committed to go to vet school. I was accepted to go to vet school, but my heart was not in it. And it was the one thing my family really wanted with kids, going back to my grandfather's promise or request of my dad, was go to college. I knew it'd be a big deal, but I sat my folks down one night and said, I'll make you a deal. If you let me drop out of college for 1 year, I'll turn our Lasma Arabians, the name of our farm, into a profitable business. And I had an idea in mind, and that was the public auction. Through the next 15 years, of course, that first auction was successful and we were profitable, but for the next 15 years, as sale manager, I sold gross sales of over almost $500 million worth of horses. Wow. I became kind of a celebrity in the Arabian horse world. I befriended, I shared experiences with celebrities like Mike Nichols, Wayne Newton, William Shatner, William Devane, Bob Hope, the Beach Boys, Pointer Sisters. I was on national television, Real People television show, Merv Griffin's show, and ABC National News. So I was pretty well celebrated myself. And then the 1986 Tax Reform Act hit, and my little world crashed. They changed the tax laws. The whole horse industry was rocked, and the Arabian horse industry in particular went to the bottom. Our breeding farm was the last to fall, but it did fall. And I found that I was left broke, alone, and very forlorn. The only thing that I had in my name or in my possession was my talent with the horses. And I was offered a job, actually just a part-time job in California. And that's where I met the love of my life, my wife, Erin. Mm-hmm. And she and I, with inspiration, lessons learned, climbed back up the mountain, pursuing our own dreams, and we found fulfillment.
All right, Gene, thank you very much for going into all of that, man. And listen, I guess the next logical question would be inspiration, man. Like, I hear your background, following the journey, and I can understand if it was something that you wanted to do for yourself, to jot all of this down, to document this history. Well, listen, man, that could have just stayed on your personal shelf. That could have been something that you told those around you. You didn't have to make that next step to publish it and put it out for the world. What inspired you to do that?
Because I had such a great life with the horses. I mean, they did so much for me. I was inspired to write a book, which is my story. I figured my story would inspire parents, grandparents to do everything possible to provide their kids an opportunity to experience the transformative powers, life-changing powers of the horse as I did. And that was my inspiration.
Well, Gene, listen, man, my follow-up question that I want to go into now. And listen, people, understand, man, we're just going to scratch the surface here today. You know what you got to do, okay? It's Amazon. It's Barnes & Noble. Make sure to check out the Facebook page, Gene LaCroix, Thanks to My Father's Dream. This is a book you need to add to your shelf. You want to get involved. You want to learn everything. We're not doing it here on the podcast. You got to purchase your copies. But as we're journeying along here, I started off in my opening by talking about that interesting duality of taking over something that in your journey was taking over your father's path. In mine, the same thing. And there are so many others out there listening in that have similar situations and experiences. But let's hone it into that, man, because your title and the way that it's framed, it almost makes your journey, it depicts it as an inheritance. Was there a moment during this journey where you realized the dream was no longer just your father's, but you had to truly make it your own? And what did you have to add to it to make it yours?
That's an interesting question. My father's dream obviously was to own and breed these special kind of horses, mm-hmm. and he succeeded in that. But in that process, it was totally a family endeavor, which speaks to families and their horses and their kids. And this stallion was so special, and I was just 14 years old. But by the time I was 16, I was the youngest person to ever win a U.S. national championship. And then that was in conformation halter classes. Then he basically, riding him in competition, taught me how I needed to train his offspring. And we excelled. I won over 100 U.S. national championships, and I've already gone into the marketing aspect. So as my father's dream got me to that point, I then veered off, not separately, but took the lead with my family still very supportive and very involved in the training, showing, and marketing of these horses. And it stayed totally a family-involved endeavor until the crash, the 1986 Tax Reform Act.
You know, I think what's interesting here, and something that we would be remiss if we didn't touch up on here, Jim, and listen, a very big part of your story is, we just juxtapose the duality of, again, taking over your father's dream, making it yours. But now we're going to assess a different type of duality in terms of that success and then the situation after it. Listen, in the arena, success is measured, right? It's measured in ribbons and times and ovations, right? Like those are easy to witness and to assess. What metrics did you have to learn to measure your life when you left that defined world behind?
Well, that came with failure. In the end, I failed. Not necessarily my fault, but there were certainly lessons learned. And one thing that I learned that has stuck with me my whole life, two things. One, cash is king.
Mm-hmm.
We had built Lasma, our breeding program, at first with just cash, and we made a mistake and we merged with another individual, and from then on we expanded our business with borrowed money. And when the Tax Reform Act hit, we felt it and we crashed. But so cash is king. The other thing I learned is, and importantly, money does not necessitate happiness. That point in the peak of my career prior to the crash, I was probably worth between $30 and $40 million, millions of dollars in the bank. I built an 11,000 square foot home. It was my second luxury home. I had house staff, limo drivers, we had a Learjet airplane. But as the industry started crumbling, and it took about 3 years to hit bottom, those are the most unhappy, miserable years of my life. And when Erin and I climbed back up that mountain, we had learned that lesson. We didn't have money when we started. She didn't have money. I didn't have money. We both had our talent with the horses, and cash became king again. And then we found happiness. We're not wealthy people like we were before, but we're comfortable.
Yeah.
But we live with the horses. We have a beautiful apartment inside the horse barn. We walk out every morning into the barn. The horses are welcoming us. They're ready for their food. In the evening, when everything is all cleaned up and the horses are munching on their evening food, that's the most satisfying feeling in the world. And that, for us, is fulfillment. We're very, very comfortable and happy with our lives, not because we have so much money, but we have what we want.
Gene, I think that's a great message for the listening audience, man. And listen, so often we strive for financial acquisition because we believe it's going to unlock the doors to free us from the burdens that we have in life. It's going to bring us happiness. And listen, to a large degree, money can accomplish a number of things, but ultimately it's not going to bring you happiness, right? And I think that's a great message and a great point to put out there. And listen, as we close out, my final question here for you, Gene, we've discussed a lot here today. Is there anything else you'd like to let our listening audience know before we let you go?
I guess I want to leave you with the fact that, I say we're fulfilled, and I feel so lucky to have had the experiences that I have. I've been rich, I've been poor, I've been a winner, I've been a loser. I've traveled the world. I've met people from all walks of life. I've done business with business tycoons like Dr. Armand Hammer and David Murdoch of Dole Pineapple. And I've just had vast experiences, and I feel so lucky and so grateful for my father's dream.
Listen, people, I'm telling you, you got to purchase your copies. Once again, remember Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Check out the Facebook page, Gene LaCroix, Thanks to My Father's Dream. This is a powerful book that's going to give you a great insight into one man's journey, but it's going to hopefully inspire yours. There's so many gems that we're able to take from today's discussion, but for me, I feel like it proves that our deepest reinvention often starts when the world stops watching. And I know that's difficult nowadays, man. Like, I feel like we're getting watched everywhere, man. Social media, we live in a digital world. So that may be difficult to balance, man, but it really does at least leave me with the powerful question to sit with. What dream are you carrying? And is it time to make it truly yours? This book is available now, and it's going to help shift perspective in so many different areas. Head on over, pick it up, and get started on embarking upon that journey today. Gene, this has been such an honest and grounding conversation, and I thank you for the vulnerability and the bravery for showcasing that, man, for the transparency, for all of it. Once again, thank you for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you, Benji.